Hi, everyone. I hope you had a very nice Christmas. I have two videos that I want to share with you because I believe that they are important. And the first one is Deborah Tavares, USA Interstate Travel Checkpoints. I have said repeatedly, watch what's happening in Australia because what's happening in Australia is absolutely coming here to the United States, to Europe, all over the world. I have said for many, many years what is happening in California. Don't think it's just going to stay in California. It is going to spread out far and wide. And it has. Much of what's happening with the schools, the woke crap. But I'm just going to play a few minutes. I do hope that you listen carefully and circulate these videos. Anyone who has knowledge of Agenda 21, this information should not be a surprise to you. They are going to be restricting all of our rights. Traveling is going to get harder and harder. Yes, there are going to be checkpoints. And yes, eventually you will have to get permission to travel beyond, I would say, your county border, not even your state border. So, as you know, many people call everything that's going on a distraction. It's not a distraction. We just have so much going on at the exact same time, but there are so many things that are happening behind the curtain that we don't know about. And I'm not even sure if the American people knew they would do anything about it. But what Deborah Tavares has to share here is very, very important. It will affect all of our lives. And I will link below to her video on her channel, Odyssey StopTheCrime.net new. Okay, here we go.
It's most important to understand the USA interstate travel checkpoints are now being initiated and already have been. So what is occurring is COVID testing is now being required, which will take in the possibility that, dependent upon your testing, you will either be quarantined or into isolation. And this, of course, will be apprehension and detention as well. Again, all U.S. border crossings are COVID travel guidelines that are restricting your travel. So I'm going to read the words to you exactly out of the documents where I received this information so that you understand and you can see those documents for yourself. And I will go over this now. First, I will tell you some of the websites that I looked at when I heard a little rumbling on a border town on Oregon and California. I heard some rumbling about some checkpoints being set up on the border of Oregon and California. So I researched it, and this is what I found. This is on the website, and it's called Traveling to or from California. And we must now follow these new travel guidelines. They say if you're traveling to or from California, help prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following these travel guidelines. And they refer to the travel advisories and the CDC travel guidances, which I'm going to go over with you, as well as continuing with this guideline. It says everyone traveling to California should test within 3 to 5 days after arrival. After travelers arriving or returning to California from any other states or countries must test 3 to 5 days after arrival. This applies to anyone, regardless of vaccination status. They say follow the CDC travel guidelines. All travelers, again, returning to or from California and from other states or countries should follow the CDC travel guidance. They say positive test results, isolate and take precautions. We're going to go over that in detail. It says delay travel until you are fully vaccinated. And if you are not vaccinated but choose to travel, test before and after. It says if you do not vaccinate, you choose to travel domestically, test 1 to 3 days before and 2 to 5 days after. Now, I know that we've heard this. I know that we're being told to always wear a mask, and I need to talk about what has been discovered with this entire COVID symptom list to begin with, because, of course, we all realize that the mask depletes our oxygen supply. Many other things that it does as well, causes massive tooth decay, etc. But it does deplete your intake of oxygen. So as I continued looking through the California Department of Public Health on this travel warning about interstate travel and the checkpoints, which are the checkpoints of COVID testing. Now, certainly they are not going to rely on people testing, because when you start looking at the front page of the newspapers, as I have today, you're seeing why this is going to end up being a forced checkpoint between all the states throughout the entire country. And we've been seeing these types of lockdowns occurring already. Australia, Austria, many other areas, certainly the Philippines has checkpoints and travel permit requirements from city to city. Many places throughout the world now have implemented this. I don't think anyone ever suspected that this would happen in the United States, but when you start looking at the headlines that are feeding this, you start to understand that they're saying that 2021 is on track to surpass 2020 as the nation's deadliest outbreak. They go on to say, will the U.S. be open in January? And they say 62 countries likely at an over 100% hospital capacity. Now, we know this is a much fear porn. We know that people will then concede to the reduction of travel from state to state here in the United States. They say that Washington, D.C. is the first major city to impose vaccine mandates on students. Go on, hospitals pushed to financial ruin as nurses quit in masses. They go on to say that the WHO needs 3 to 4 weeks to answer the Omicron severity question. These reports go on, and I'm sure all of you are hearing this on your news for propaganda and fear porn constantly is the drumbeat. So now it would not surprise you to understand what is happening with the transportation, the public transportation. This is going to happen to all of you. It says the California Department of Public Health, I found this, and this is dated December 13th of 2021, to all Californians, subject travel advisory. Now, I will tell you, I don't know of anybody that saw this travel advisory that was intended to go to all Californians. And I will tell you this, that they talked about the travel guidelines. There was a PDF and the CDC travel requirements. They go on to tell us that because of the COVID-19 vaccinations and vaccines remain effective in preventing serious disease, hospitalization, and death from SARS-CoV virus. However, since Thanksgiving, they were talking about Thanksgiving of 2021, just recently, the statewide 7-day average case rate has increased by 47%, and hospitalizations have increased as well. They say on December 1st of 2021, the first confirmed U.S. case of Omicron, a variant of concern, as labeled by the World Health Organization, was identified. And they go on. They tell us that the higher levels of vaccinations in California and beyond. So when you hear me talking about this, and I'm saying California, they are saying in their information and beyond. All of you listening, you're in the beyond. So don't just think that I'm only talking about California because I'm reading the specific information out of California. You're in the beyond. This all applies to you. It goes on to say all travelers arriving in or out or returning from other states or countries should follow the CDC travel guidelines, and all travelers arriving or returning to California from other states or countries should test 3 to 5 days. And they go on, all travelers who test positive or develop symptoms of COVID-19 should isolate and follow public health guidelines. Now, let's go over what quarantine and isolation is, and I printed this off of the CDC website. But before I do that, it's most important for me to remind each and every single one of you that the CDC is not a public health advocacy organization. The CDC is a private, for-profit corporation doing business, and they are doing business on us. The CDC, as I said, is not a government health advocacy organization. It is a corporation, and in fact, the CDC is listed on Dun & Bradstreet and headquartered in the state of Georgia with ties to the pharmaceutical industry. It is an extension of the pharmaceutical industry. And
I think most of you know that the CDC. Okay, again, I will link below. There's a whole lot of information that Deborah imparts in this video that is very, very important, and that is going to be affecting every one of us. Every one of us. So, I also want to share this video that I listened to today, 45 minutes, and it's Robert Kennedy Jr. with Jimmy Dore. Now, Jimmy Dore, I have to say, he's been putting out a lot of very good information. It pisses me off because he says a lot that I know that if I said, I would get a community guideline violation. That is not saying that Jimmy Dore is part of the whole game here. It's just saying that Jimmy Dore has close to 1 million subscribers and is a known name. He also has resources to fight YouTube. So, yeah, when you have the resources, they sometimes stay away. It's not to say that every video that Jimmy Dore posts that he didn't get pulled. He did, some of them. But this I found to be one of the best Robert Kennedy Jr. videos. And he too imparts an awful lot of information about the pharmaceutical industry, about the CDC, about Fauci, that one would hope that if you shared it with your fellow Americans, that they would actually sit down and listen. But this, in 45 minutes, he really points out the criminal organization, the FDA, the CDC, the pharmaceutical companies, and Fauci. So, I'm going to play a few minutes, and then again, I will link to this below. Yeah, please circulate both videos.
He does not do public health, and he has not done public health since the 1980s. He has transformed that agency into an incubator for pharmaceutical products. He does, his agency, he is the architect of agency capture, not just at NIH or NIAID, but across all of HHS.
Sorry, let me just interject. He's talking about Fauci.
What they do is they promote pharmaceutical products. They promote the profiteering by the pharmaceutical industry. They promote their own personal power, and he is the leader of that pack. He took that agency, which is supposed to do research on chronic disease and infectious disease, the etiology of those diseases, to figure out what are the environmental causes of those diseases. Why are we in the middle of an epidemic for autism right now, for example? Why is it that autism went from 1 in 10,000 in my generation to 1 in every 34 kids in my children's generation? Why did food allergies suddenly appear in 1989? Peanut allergies that we never heard of and now are ubiquitous. Why did rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, and all these autoimmune diseases suddenly go epidemic in 1989? Why did all the neurodevelopmental diseases that we never heard of as a kid, ADD, ADHD, Tourette syndrome, tics, narcolepsy, ASD, sleep disorder, why did they suddenly become ubiquitous? When Tony Fauci came in, 6% of American children had chronic disease. By 2006, 54% had it. We went from being the healthiest country in the world with the healthiest children to the sickest. Literally, we do not even qualify as a developed nation anymore. We are 79th in the world behind Nicaragua and Costa Rica in terms of our health outcomes. And why did that happen? Well, the one figure who is more responsible for that than anybody else in the world is Tony Fauci. He is the reason we take more pharmaceutical drugs than any other nation in the world, 3 times the average in the Western countries. We pay the highest prices and we have the worst health outcomes. And that, is as I show in the book, all of that is at Tony Fauci's door. He has consistently failed upward. If you won't ask Tony Fauci what his greatest success story is, he'll talk about drug promotion. He'll say we developed this vaccine, or we got AZT into 500,000 people. He won't say that that human health has increased or deaths have dropped from HIV or anything like that. He will tell you how many drugs that he sold. And he developed drugs instead of using the money, the $7.6 billion a year budget, more than $500 billion that we've given him in total, instead of using that to determine, what are the environmental exposures that are causing all of these chronic disease outbreaks, he used that budget to develop new drugs, which he then farms out to the universities, and he shares the patents with them, and then he sells them to the drug companies and splits the patents with them. And he walks those drugs through the FDA approval process, which he completely controls from the bottom up. And then he gets them approved. And then in many cases, he himself profits. People within his agency can collect $150,000 a year from royalties of each of these products. And his agency, for example, in Moderna vaccine, his agency owns half of that vaccine, and they stand to make billions of dollars. 4 of his top deputies, his loyalists, he was able to designate them to get march-in rights for the patents. Well, those 4 men will collect $150,000 a year for life from a product they're supposed to be regulating. And what's happened is that the mercantile and commercial interests have overwhelmed the regulatory function at that agency, and it no longer does public health, it does pharmaceutical promotion. I'll tell you one last data point. Between 2009 and 2016, there were 240 new drugs approved by FDA, all of which came out of his shop. He is the incubator for the whole pharmaceutical industry.
Okay, so very important information that he continues to share. And look, the FDA, Big Pharma, Fauci, CDC, they are making people very sick. And unfortunately, a whole lot of people are dying. What could be more important than sharing this information? And what is really just surreal is that the information is out there for the American people. Will they open their minds just a bit, enough to consider this information? Well, that's the unfortunate aspect of life that we are living now, because so many people do not want the truth. The lie is so much easier. It it demands nothing from us. Just keep accepting all of these lies, and you don't have to do anything. You'll suffer the consequences of the lies, but you can still just sit on your couch, stream some movies, and do nothing, while so many others suffer the consequences. All right. I also want to just let you know that I did post a video. I've had trouble posting on BitChute and Odyssey for 24 hours. I don't know what the hell was going on, but I could not post on Odyssey, and I finally did get to post this video. It's a Just Talking, God Help Us. Boy, do we need it. In the video, I say that I'm going to link to some articles and studies, and unfortunately, this was supposed to upload last night. I posted all of the links and shut down those windows and came back and got an error message. So I don't know what. I came down with something today. I'm not feeling well, so there are no links, but you can access the studies, the articles, via their titles. So if you want to watch this, and also if you feel like, well, coming over, following me on Odyssey, I'd appreciate it. It's very frustrating now. It's incredibly frustrating and depleting and uninspiring, and it's just it's a mess due to the censorship, and now there are so many platforms all over the place. Everybody, we're stretched thin. That's not good, but my primary platform off YouTube is Odyssey. So, and I'll link below to this video. All right. I hope you're all okay. I hope you had a really nice day today. Okay, guys. A link to Deborah's video, a link to Jimmy Dore's video. You'll see them below. And please circulate the information. Thanks.